3. This one's about income tax, and when you see Ethel the Economist, that's where the help will be. Let's examine the steps we're going to take in order to learn about income tax. So first of all, we need to know what it is. Then we're going to look at knowing 3 different bands of income tax, and then you're going to have a go at calculating income tax for 3 different earners or different earning brackets. So the key vocabulary for this lesson is quite straightforward. It's statutory tax and deductions. And we know that we've achieved in this lesson when we can state what income tax is, we know the 3 different tax bands, and we can accurately calculate it for high earning people as well. The jobs below are specific to involving tax. You've got a certified public accountant, local government revenues officer and compensation coordinator. All of these are available on Start Profile. The work list for income tax lesson 3 is quite simple. It's there's one task to do, and that's calculating the correct income tax for 4 different people for their 4 different earnings. What is income tax? Income tax is a tax on a person's income. That's the person that we're looking at, the customer, not the retail business. This form of tax is a statutory deduction. That statutory is key vocabulary. That means it has to be paid. And it's a deduction from an employee's wage. Each person has an income tax personal allowance, and income up to this amount in each tax year is free of tax. It was $12,500 in 2019-2020. People earning different amounts of income will pay a different amount of income tax. The more a person earns, the higher the percentage of their income is paid in income tax. Let's explore that on the next slide. Let's look at some figures. How much is income tax? I'm sure you're asking. Currently there are 3 different bands of tax that show how much tax must be paid for 2019-2020. So let's look at the table of information. Personal tax allowance, up to $12,500 can be earned, and that will be 0% paid in income tax. The basic tax rate, that is anyone earning between £12,501 and up to £50,000, then they pay 20% of tax from their income. The higher tax band is where someone earns between £50,001 and £150,000, and they pay 40% of their income in tax. That's double the basic tax rate. And the additional income tax rate is anyone earning over £150,000. They need to pay 45% of their income in income tax. That's a 5% jump. Now there's a lot of numbers there, so let's actually start working it out. So if we've got an example of an individual who earns $30,000 a year, then they would pay the following income tax to the government. So on 0 to $12,500 they pay nothing. So if you look at this, their £30,000 is sliced up into portions, and between $12,500 and $30,000 they pay 20%. I can already hear you feeling a little bit fuzzled on that, so let's just pause again a second to look through that. Right, this person earns $30,000 a year. They're allowed between 0 and $12,500 to earn that money and not pay any tax on it. So what we then need to do is make them pay tax on the $12,501 up to £30,000. That's all they need to pay tax on. So as mentioned before, we've sliced up this person's £30,000, their annual salary. The first slice, the 0 to $12,500, gets no tax. Then we've got to find the second slice. So what we do here is we've got to find out how much is left. So we've got $30,000 their total income, and you take away the $12,500. That leaves you with $17,500, and that is taxable at 20%. Because it's above basic, it's in that basic tranche there. So now I know that this person needs to pay 20% tax on their 17,500, their second slice, so that's that portion in the middle. I now need to find out 20% of 17,500. If I use a calculator, I type in 17,500, multiply by 20 and press the percent sign, and that gives me the answer, 3,500. Finally then, this is how we do it. This person earns, might be Ethel, there you go, it's Ethel in the corner. Ethel earns 30,000, she has 0 to 12,500 income tax free, and then on the 17,500, that second slice, she needs to pay 3,500 in income tax, and that leaves her with 26,500. Right, now it's your job. You're going to start working out income tax for these 4 people. You've got Mike and Amy on this page, and we've got 2 more on the next. So let's start working it out. Mike Roberts is a manager of a large computer retailer. He earns 36,000 per annum. Per annum is the fancy way of saying per year. It's in Latin, so we're not actually worried about his name or his job. We're looking at the 36,000. So this is how we're going to calculate it. We've got to divide Mike's salary, 36,000, into slices like Ethel's on the last slide. So the first slice, the 0 to 12,500, is no income tax. We now need to find the second slice. So we've got his annual salary, 36,000, and we need to take away that first slice. So to create the second slice, we're looking at 12,501 up to 36,000, that is at the 20%. So let's turn that around. We're now looking at 36,000 minus 12,501, and the answer gives you a single question mark. No, the answer gives you something to write next to the single question mark. So now you've got your number instead of the single question mark. We're going to take the single question mark number, and we've got to find 20%. So what we do now is single question mark number multiplied by 20% gives us, that's how much he's going to pay in income tax. That doesn't tell us his salary, but that's not the question at the moment. We're only working at income tax. So therefore, you have now worked out the answer. Here's Amy Vaughan. Amy Vaughan is a senior manager working for the NHS. She earns 120,000 per annum. So she's one of the big earners, so we've got a little bit more to work out. We've got more slices of the salary for Amy to work out what each one is, to work out her total income tax bill. So as before, she gets a slice of no income tax, the slice of 0 to 12,500. Now we need to work out the second slice, so we're looking at the slice between 12,501 and up to £50,000. That is the slice which will be at 20%. So let's turn that around now. That's £50,000 minus 12,501 gives you the answer to put in the next to the single question mark, like you've done slice 2 above, and we'll be coming on to that in a bit. So write the answer there for £50,000 minus 12,501. Use a calculator, it's not a problem. Right, now follow this carefully because it might look a bit eyesight pickling and brain frazzling, but it's not actually when you follow this logically. So now you've got your answer to single question mark, you're using that number again, and then if you put it in the calculator, so you use single question mark, the number, multiply by 20 and the percent sign, and that will be your answer for the double question mark. I'll put an A there because we're going to come back to it in a second. So that, writing your answer for the double question mark, A there. Right, so we've worked out the first 2 slices, much like Mike Roberts on his 36,000. We've done exactly the same for Amy, but actually Amy is a higher earner, so we now need to work out a third slice because she earns over £50,000, not up to the additional bracket, so we're on our third slice of income tax to calculate. Exactly the same process as before, but this time we're looking at the third slice, which is £50,001 to £120,000. We need to find out how much that slice is, because we're going to tax it at 40%. So as before for the second slice, and the way we did it with Mike Roberts as well, you just turn it around so you can calculate that different amount. So it's 120,000 minus £50,001, because that's the amount that's going to get taxed at 40%. So 120,000 minus £50,001, put your answer next to single question mark there. Now you take that number you put into the single question mark, and you're going to do the same calculation this time, and you're going to do single question mark answer multiplied by 40 and then the percent sign, and put that in the answer of double question mark, and there's B. This is where you'll find out what's going on while we've put up labels. So that's the answer from the sum above, the single question mark multiplied by 40%. I'm assuming you're using the calculator, which is absolutely encouraged, because that's what we're looking at working out right now. Now we're on the final part of the calculation, because this time around for Amy there are 3 slices for her income tax bill. So we need our answer from the second slice, A, the answer to the third slice, which was B. Add the two of them together and you get Amy Vaughan's income tax bill, because she's got 3 different layers, and you've worked out her first layer, which is no income tax, her 20% layer and her 40% layer. So you've now worked it out for her. Now here you've got, on task 1B, you've got Dale Phillips, who's a trainee plumber and earns £14,000 per annum per year. So you do need to work out 2 layers for Dale. You need to work out his 0 to 12,500 layer, and then you work out his 12,501 up to 14,000, and that tells you how much he's going to pay in income tax. Hannah Ainsley works part-time in a local restaurant and earns £12,000 per annum per year. So have a think about how big the first slice is, just how many slices of tax does she have to pay. Hopefully that one will be quite straightforward for you. There you go, you have completed the income tax lesson. You've calculated correctly the income tax for 4 people on 4 different earnings. You're probably relieved to feel and hear that you finished.